I'm out, sit down, not yet. Okay, call the meeting to order. Ms. Cleary?
Father, thank us in this time of harvest season. You can't but help appreciate just driving down our roads, looking at the full moon, looking at the best part of Washington County. It's the people here. Thank you for letting us, let us live here, let us get on with our work.
Wilson?
Please rise. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. In the event there's a need to evacuate the building, please move. If you need assistance, please request. Once outside the building, move a safe distance, wait for further instructions, and please follow all directions from first. Thank you.
You have the roll call, please.
Mr. Hanky,
I am here.
Mrs. Fedler. Here. Mr. Shaw,
Here.
Mr. Hall,
Here.
Mr. Fisher.
Here.
Mr. Baker,
Here.
Mr. Nolan,
Here.
Mr. O'Brien,
Here.
Mr. Hahn, Mr. Campbell,
Here.
Mr. Skelly, Mr. Hogan, Mr. Wilson,
Here.
Mrs. Clary,
Here.
Mr. Wang, Mr. Rosell.
Here. Thank you. You've got the condensed minutes from August 16th, 2024 in your packet. I'll consider them accepted as mails to you unless there's additions or corrections. Are there any? Being none, I will consider them accepted. Communications.
Communications from Warren County, we are in receipt of their resolution number 296, supporting the Adirondack Community College High Voltage Electrical Infrastructure Replacement Project and committing to providing funding for same. That's all I have.
Communications. Seeing none. Committee reports. Audit Committee.
Chairman, I'd like to move the audit report to the full board for payment of $5,032,317.69.
Supervisor Rosell, is there a second? Fedler, Hall, Fisher, Baker, O'Brien, Clary, Wang, and Noland. Discussion. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Okay, I got a couple of things to do here before we bail right into the meeting. And usually I get to do this in December when somebody leaves, but somebody has left a little early, so I'd like to call Paul Ferguson. Sorry to see you go, Bud. I really appreciate some of the insight you gave us on the highway committees, and you know, you lived the life, so you were a big help there, and I appreciate it. You got anything you want to say?
Thank you. I'm actually going to miss all my county and constituents and stuff. It's been fun.
There you are. In case you forget who you are. They have a proclamation, which I'm going to read from here to make sure it gets into the record well, and then I'll call the hapless victim up to the front. This is a proclamation in recognition of Richard Farrell. Whereas since the dawn of the Republic, local newspapers have been the primary reliable source of local news and information. And whereas in today's information environment, it is more difficult than ever for these important avenues of communication to compete. And whereas since the beginning of the 21st century, the United States has lost over a quarter of its local newspapers, which I think is higher than that actually. Whereas in 1981, Richard Franklin Farrell and his wife Joan founded the Eagle, a local newspaper in Cambridge, New York. And whereas as of 2024, the weekly paper continues in its 44th year maintains both print and online editions, and is the official legal newspaper for 9 towns, 4 villages, and 4 school districts. And whereas on October 5th of this year, Mr. Farrell will be retiring from the newspaper publishing, although the Eagle proudly remains a family-run business. Now therefore be it resolved that I, Robert Hankey, the chairman of the Washington County Board of Supervisors, do hereby proclaim our gratitude to Mr. Farrell's service to the citizens of Washington County and our local and county governments, and wish him well in his future endeavors. Dick, could you come forward? Could have missed seeing you in the back row. Mason, do you want to say anything to us?
For 44 years, I've been coming to this meeting. I've enjoyed, I think, every one. I don't think there was any I didn't have a good time at. And I just want to thank you all. You're doing a great job for Washington County. Keep it up, please. Thank you.
Okay, supervisor privilege. Anyone want the privilege of the floor? Okay, I have one. Merle?
Morning. We live in the sweet spot. Believe this is paradise. Won't be for long. Some Native Americans, while in council, will make decisions on the concept of what will my decision will be effect on the 7th generation in the future. My question to you is, what do you plan to do about, this is where you guys can put your earplugs in, about climate change and how it'll affect us now and 7 generations from now? I don't think we have 7 generations left, maybe 20 years before all of Washington County will look like Fort Edward. And no open space, no farm, just houses. From Easton to Ticonderoga and north to Canada, west from Albany to Buffalo. What can be done? Town plan versus county plan. Problem. Not in our town. How about a fee on land purchases? Whatever you. How? Business. Real estate. Used for above and maybe put into county-owned low-income housing. Smaller houses, smaller lots. Starter home. Thank you. And have a nice day.
Thank you, Merle. Okay. Any other privilege?
Now I got hooked up.
Okay, proceed with the introduction of resolutions. I need a motion to set aside the rules for resolution number 284. Moved by Mr. Hall, second by Fiddler. Wang and Nolan, discussion. All those in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Opposed? Carried. I have the clerk read the results only, starting with 284.
Resolution number 284 by Supervisor Campbell, titled to approve contract for countywide infrastructure resiliency grant. Resolved that the chairman of the Board of Supervisors is hereby authorized to sign an agreement to accept the countywide infrastructure resiliency grant for the amount so specified in a form to be reviewed and approved by the county attorney. And be it further resolved that the chairman of the Board of Supervisors is hereby authorized to sign an agreement with Lake Champlain, Lake George Regional Planning Board to administer this grant. And be it further resolved that the county treasurer is hereby authorized to make the following budget amendment. Increase appropriations, infrastructure resiliency grant, 200,000. Decrease appropriation contingency, 20,000. Increase revenue, federal aid, 180,000.
If anyone needs to recess at this point, we'll go on to the consideration of resolutions.
Resolution number 269 by Supervisors Wilson, Fedler, Shaw, Fisher, Baker, Wang, title Washington County Board of Supervisors seeker resolution regarding Washington County Sewer District Number 2 Infrastructure Review Project.
Mr. Chairman, moving resolution number 269.
Moved by Supervisor Wilson, second. Fiddler, Hall, Fisher, Baker, O'Brien, Wang, and Nolan. Discussion. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
Resolution number 270 by Supervisors Wilson, Fedler, Shaw, Fisher, Baker, Wang, title Washington County Board of Supervisors seeker resolution regarding the issuance not to exceed $15,500,000 of serial bonds by the County of Washington, New York for the construction of a septage receiving station and sludge dryer at the Sewer District Number 2 facility, including obtaining original furnishings, equipment, machinery, and apparatus in the Village of Fort Edward, Washington County, New York.
Mr. Chairman, moving resolution number 270.
Moved by Supervisor Wilson, second. Fiddler, Hall, Fisher, Baker, O'Brien, Clary, Wang, and Nolan. Discussion. You've all seen, reviewed carefully the seeker document, is that correct? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
Resolution number 271 by Supervisors Shaw, Clary, Fedler, Hall, Nolan, Wang, title authorized purchase of SHI cybersecurity software via Sourcewell contract.
Mr. Chairman, move resolution 271.
Supervisor Shaw, second. Fiddler, Hall, Fisher, O'Brien, Clary, Wang, and Nolan. Discussion. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
Resolution number 272 by Supervisors Fedler, Wilson, Hogan, Nolan, Baker, Hahn, title to accept crime victims grant, District Attorney.
Mr. Chairman, moving resolution number 272.
Moved by Supervisor Fiddler, second. Hall, Fisher, Baker, O'Brien, Campbell, Clary, and Nolan. Discussion. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
Resolution number 273 by Supervisors Hall, Shaw, Campbell, Fedler, Skelly, Wilson, Nolan, title amend staffing pattern, public health.
Mr. Chairman, moving resolution number 273.
By Supervisor Hall, second. Fiddler, Fisher, O'Brien, Campbell, and Nolan. Discussion. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
Resolution number 274 by Supervisors Hall, Shaw, Campbell, Fedler, Skelly, Wilson, Nolan, title amend staffing pattern, Department of Social Services for reclassified position.
Mr. Chairman, moving resolution number 274.
by Supervisor Hall, second. Fedler, Fisher, O'Brien, and Noland. Discussion. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
Resolution number 275 by Supervisors Campbell, Fedler, Shaw, Skelly, Hogan, Clary, Rozell, Hall, Wilson, Fisher, Nolan, title to accept payment of returned school taxes.
Moving resolution number 275.
Moved by Supervisor Campbell, second. Fedler, Hall, Fisher, Clary, and Noland. Discussion. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
Resolution number 276 by Supervisors Campbell, Fedler, Shaw, Skelly, Hogan, Clary, Rozell, Hall, Wilson, Fisher, Nolan, title to accept payment of returned village taxes.
Moving resolution number 276.
By Supervisor Campbell, second. Fedler, Hall, Fisher, Clary, and Noland. Discussion. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
Resolution number 277 by Supervisors Campbell, Fedler, Shaw, Skelly, Hogan, Clary, Rozell, Hall, Wilson, Fisher, Nolan, title to authorize chairman to sign contract amendment number 1 to Black Dog Design Contract.
Moving resolution number 277.
Moved by Supervisor Campbell, second. Fedler, Hall, Fisher, O'Brien, Clary, and Noland. Discussion. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
Resolution number 278 by Supervisors Campbell, Fedler, Shaw, Skelly, Hogan, Clary, Rozell, Hall, Wilson, Fisher, Nolan, title amend budget mental health for 100% state aid.
Moving resolution number 278.
Moved by Supervisor Campbell, second. Fedler, Hall, Fisher, O'Brien, Clary, and Noland. Discussion. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
Resolution number 279 by Supervisors Campbell, Fedler, Shaw, Skelly, Hogan, Clary, Rozell, Hall, Wilson, Fisher, Nolan, title amend budget county attorney for litigation expenses.
Moving resolution 279.
Moved by Supervisor Campbell, second. Fedler, Hall, Fisher, Clary, and Noland. Discussion. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
Resolution number 280 by Supervisors Campbell, Fedler, Shaw, Skelly, Hogan, Clary, Rozell, Hall, Wilson, Fisher, Nolan, title amend budget planning for contracted services.
Moving resolution number 280.
Moved by Supervisor Campbell, second. Fedler, Hall, Fisher, O'Brien, Clary, and Noland. Discussion. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
Resolution number 281 by Supervisors Campbell, Fedler, Shaw, Skelly, Hogan, Clary, Rozell, Hall, Wilson, Fisher, Nolan. Title to consent to the Warren Washington IDA's undertaking of an industrial development project in the town of Queensbury, Adirondack Radiology Associates PC and Cary Road Medical Building LLC at 170 Cary Road, town of Queensbury, New York.
Moving resolution number 281.
Moved by Supervisor Campbell, second. Hall, Fisher, O'Brien, Clary, and Noland. Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
Resolution number 282 by Supervisors Campbell, Fedler, Shaw, Skelly, Hogan, Clary, Rozell, Hall, Wilson, Fisher, Nolan, title authorizing agreement with the Village of Whitehall for sheriff patrols within the village and surrounding area and amending the staffing pattern.
Moving resolution number 282.
Moved by Supervisor Campbell, second. Fedler, Hall, Fisher, O'Brien, Clary, Rozell, and Noland. Discussion. Mr. Shaw.
Yeah, I brought it up in committee, and I don't know how well I explained it. But my concern is they're paying for what they're asking for, so I have no problem with that. But if they choose not to renew it, and we have built a staffing pattern up in the sheriff's department to facilitate their requirements and what they're paying for, what are we going to do when they don't renew it, or if they don't renew it? And it's the same with Fort Edward. I mean, I'm not picking out Whitehall. Is there any way this could be looked at again and see what the sheriff feels the requirements are at the time? That there is no contract as far as what is necessary or services by the patrol officers at that time? Is there any way we can set this up to where we don't fall into something and not realize what we're getting into? Because I know that other town or villages are struggling with the cost of law enforcement. We could get, it could become very expensive because we've started a pattern that maybe isn't really a pattern that we want or can afford. Am I making myself clear on this, how I'm saying it? I'm concerned about that.
I'm understanding you.
I can answer that question. So I have had conversations with the sheriff, and when those contracts expire, that's when we'll have that discussion. We'll bring that to committee and we'll discuss whether there's a need to continue those added positions. I can tell you right now from my conversations with public safety and with the sheriff's office, calls are not slowing down. They're at all-time high, and we're going to have to continue covering those areas, whether these village PDs have staff or not.
And that's, I know, and that's not what I meant by that. Let me apologize, start over. I'm saying if the villages, any village wants 4 police officers and they'll pay for them, fine. Now, when they quit paying for them, maybe the sheriff will look at it and say, hey, we only really need 2 or 3, rather than just go right along with the 4 without actually taking a hard look at it. I know you can't cut it out completely because you're taking on you're filling a void. But I think it needs to be evaluated is all. And I'm fine, as long as you're going to evaluate it.
Yeah, no, I assure you that that will be looked at, and we will check the staffing on that before those positions are continued.
Oh,
Chairman, yeah, and I just wanted to add to that, we do have a check and balance in there. We have a budget process. And when we do the budget, we look at the number of authorizations the sheriff has. And I'm sure that if a contract of that magnitude at the village has been terminated for whatever reason, at that point in time, the finance committee, as well as the personnel committee, would be aware that, hey, we had allocated 4 officers for there, that's gone away. And then we as a board would address that at that point in time. I think, Dan, that's how we have to follow up on it.
Take a look at it again, because we don't look into it if they're paying their way, why we don't dispute that, because if they want 4 officers and they're paying for 4, but maybe the sheriff in an evaluation of what's required, 3 would be sufficient. I mean, we're talking hundreds of thousands of dollars when we step into these contracts.
I was thankful when the sheriff shared with us that all the backfilled positions or all the positions that are open are being filled. It seems like a few years ago that was an issue of being able to find people to fill these positions. And he assured us that that's happening. So I was pleased by that. While we were talking about it, I was thinking about Salem and the dissolution of the village into the town of Salem. And I think we're the only one that has gone through that dissolution process. Not to say that 5 years from now, it could happen to Fort Edward, it could happen to Whitehall. You know, who knows where that's going to go, because none of us have crystal balls. But Melissa's saying that it's an annual review, or it's a constant conversation while that happens. I think those are the calls that are going to be attended to anyways. And we can kind of look at this as kind of a gift to our county budget, in my opinion. You know?
what a gift horse, right?
Exactly. Exactly.
Anyone else? Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
Resolution number 283 by Supervisors Campbell, Fedler, Shaw, Skelly, Hogan, Clary, Roselle, Hall, Wilson, Fisher, Nolan, title, amend capital project H 129 American Rescue Plan and reallocate funds.
Resolution number 283.
Moved by Supervisor Campbell, second. Edler, Hall, Fisher, O'Brien, Clary, and Noland. Discussion. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
Resolution number 284 by Supervisor Campbell titled to approve contract for countywide infrastructure resiliency grant.
To move, resolution 284. There's a typo on the revenue account. It should be A 8020.3789, because it's CBDG.
It's state aid, not federal. Mr. Campbell, sorry. My
So
bad.
I don't know if you need that amended or can just fix that typo, but I'll amend it if it's necessary. So I'm moving it anyway.
Move by Supervisor Campbell, second. Pedler, Hall, Fisher, O'Brien, Wilson, Clary, Wang, and Nolan. I think that's I don't think we need a formal amendment for that. Discussion. Mr. Shaw.
Mr. Chairman, I have no problem with Brian moving this. I think it should be moved and discussed. But if you look at the dollars and cents, and in the last preceding month or two, Brian mentioning our shortfall, I took a hard look at this. And if you look at it, we are paying $20,000. And look at the third whereas. This is what we're paying it for. Whereas up to this amount of money will be used to retain a consultant to develop a plan which will include a vulnerability assessment of the county's infrastructure, public health risks, and an assessment of the potential economic impact of failed infrastructure in Washington County. If somebody came to a committee and said, listen, let's say it was our Laura, our economic development coordinator, and says, for $20,000, I can get you this information. We wouldn't vote for it. What do we need this information for that the local supervisors couldn't provide from their own town? And with our budget shortfall, really all we're doing is we're spending another $20,000 for a piece of information that I don't think is relevant to us, that can't be provided by us internally. That's my opinion. And Laura is going to hopefully correct my thinking on this matter.
So I will try to do that, Mr. Shaw. I can tell you that in the idea of like not making this resolution 45 pages long, there is actually a fair bit more than that that will go into this. As you all know, securing any kind of aid from a federal or a state program gets harder and harder as we go along. So when funding opportunities come out, more and more they require that you have created a list and prioritized the list and can demonstrate that you've put thought into what funding is needed, and can, again, absolutely prove that you have more need for the funding than your next door neighbor does. So one of the things that this program will create is a list of fundable projects. So the idea is to look at county infrastructure. We can also potentially look at town or village-owned infrastructure, determine where the most significant need is, and then ultimately have the next step to securing funding to get those projects addressed.
Let me ask you, Laura, take my town or any rural town, and are they going to go on people that have a lot of, I'll call it clutter? I've had one person call it an open air auto parts store, but what it is a junkyard. And is it going to identify that, and then we're going to have to deal with this? Are we going to dig into everybody? I know about every farmer has a ravine in the back they've dumped into. Are we going to get involved in that? Does this open up too many cans of worms that we don't want to open up? I'm concerned.
We, the county, will issue an RFP to secure a consultant. So we can do that one of two ways. Either we can have a discussion at Ag Planning about what the parameters should be in the RFP, or we can also individually contact each and every town and ask like what your involvement what you might wish your involvement to be in the construction of the RFP. But the RFP will be what we design. That's not something, there's some minimum thresholds that have to be addressed based on the program rules coming from Department of State, but we will write the RFP. So the RFP will be what we want the outcome to be.
My interpretation of this is more than a year ago, so it's a while since we had this discussion. I believe we have a pretty good idea, like maybe what the top 20 things are in the county. But this is to prioritize them so we don't spend money on 18, 19, and 20, and 1, 2, and 3 are not being done. Is that?
That's true, but also keep in mind, we may know what the top 20 things are, but if we go to a funding agency and say, this is what we want, we have no way to say that we've identified, prioritized, and understand what the project is. That's what this will do. And again, my apology, it took the state 9 months to get us a contract, which is why this is so far outside of committee.
Or does that parallel with like DOH standings and other state represent? Hey, you can only do this, you can't do this. Does these compile like that? What towns and villages are based under?
You mean based on local
For
zoning
economic,
laws? Or?
for economic, to stay open.
Oh, the economic impact, yes. I mean, so part of the evaluation of a project would be the cost of the project, what it's going to deliver to the community, and what the ultimate economic impact. Also say that the project was originally designed to dovetail with the county's hazard mitigation. It still will do that, but we're later to the table than we thought. So public safety and
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? No. Carries. Okay, that's the resolution. Supervisors' comments. Oh,
I'll find out just exactly where Sasquatch is gonna show up in White House.
That's the following weekend, right?
Following weekend, yes.
So you're gonna get to scope him out first.
Yep, and everybody's welcome. It's a big crowd and we're happy to see everybody there. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I would like to take this opportunity to thank all of the supervisors, the residents of the county, the state and federal elected officials that tried to help salvage and keep Great Meadow Correctional Facility open. A lot of people in this room put a lot of effort and time into that and work through support, and we certainly appreciate that. That has been a final decision. Obviously, they've already started all the process. What the facility is going to be used for in the future, no one knows at this point in time. But I did want to take this opportunity on behalf of all those correction officers whose families just impacted to say thank you for the contributions you made in trying to salvage the prison. Thank you.
greatest tragedy since I've been on the board. Mr. Campbell.
Oh, we're getting into budget season here, and I believe all the booklets will be in your mailboxes when you leave, so you can pick up what they are as requested. And just a couple things I wanted to go over, some interesting things. Payroll with overtime, everything all included, is over $42 million. DSS expense, non-Medicaid is over $30 million. And Medicaid is actually $11 million. So you get to see the idea of how big these numbers have gotten over the years. It's a little interesting how and why we got there. The other thing to to make it balance, the extra money is actually on the appropriated fund balance line. So last year in the adopted budget, we appropriated $3.371 million. And right now it's $6.932 million. So you can see there's, $3.5 million gap there. At the same time, we amended the budget this year in use of fund balance to get to $7,124,000. So we're actually below what the amended number was. You've kind of got one shot here, because we're probably going to run a little bit of a surplus for this year. I'm not suggesting that we spend 6.9 million in fund balance. I just know it's going to be a hard job getting that below 4 million. It's going to be really hard to get it below 5, actually. So I hope everyone will contribute and take part, and we can look at different things. But I'm sure something is doable. We've had a lot better opportunities in the budget in the past. This one here, there's not a lot of opportunities just because of the mandates and the things that were put on us in the last 2 years. So that's kind of where we're at. And then October finance meeting will be coming up, but November finance meeting, I'm actually having carpal tunnel surgery on the day before finance. So I'm hoping to move it to actual election day. So everyone should be around to vote. So I assume they'll be in the vicinity. So let me know if you got a problem with moving it to election day. That's my only. Thank you.
I was really looking forward to having a finance committee meeting while Brian was still under the effects of anesthesia. I thought that would be.
The trouble I caused.
That'd be hilarious.
I know. Right.
All right. Settle down. Nate?
After everybody goes to Whitehall to look for Sasquatch, they come to Granville on September 29th for the car show. It's at the Fireman's Field, and it's a huge, huge turnout. A lot of old cars. Maybe John will bring Sasquatch over.
John is Sasquatch. Anybody else? Mr. Wayne?
I just want to offer my thanks to the chairman of the Board of Supervisors and the attendance yesterday also of the deputy chair, and I really just appreciate the county showing the love at the Morecon event at White Creek yesterday. So I know they should.
All right.
The importance of that was they actually had an agreement with CWI. So I want to make sure that that's put out there, because that was what that was really all about. And it was quite a nice event.
My turn then. I have some different feelings, and although perhaps tangent. Whitehall PD, we give huge lip service to community policing. This is what we got to go. We got to be community policing. We have to have the cops out in the neighborhood and blah, 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 blah. And we do everything on a state level in our power to get rid of every local policing thing possible. I worked in one of the most community-related policing departments. We all had to live in the community we worked in and everything as a conservation officer. They've now changed that. Now you get a county assignment. You just go and answer complaints. You don't know the people. You don't know the farmers. You don't know. Same thing is true with this. When you have local cops, they walk by, they notice if some door is open. They notice if hey, how come this back door is swinging open? They rattle doorknobs. They, know whose dog is lost. They know whose kid shouldn't be at somebody else's house. We're losing that. We used to have a police department in every single town in Washington County. I know because I did a careful calculus of what kind of vehicles they had, whether mine could outrun them or not. But that, however, now we've got 2 left. And the sheriff's department does a wonderful job. And the state police do an adequate job, you know, with fewer people than we have. But we're getting away from community policing. We're getting away from knowing the local people. We're getting away from knowing, you know, hey, Bob works in the store late on Wednesday night, so it's okay for a light to be on. We're getting away from that, and that's a terrible thing as far as I'm concerned. I don't know how to get it back. It's Brian had, you know, mentioned the state mandates. That's part of why communities can't afford local police anymore. But it's a terrible. I'll go. I hate seeing Fort Edward go. Have hated seeing all of them go. It's a bad thing. I was going to mention more comments. You guys did a good job on it. That was a great event. It's nice to see another Washington County business that is actually nationwide and even international. We have several that we don't even realize. You know, I have a company winning international rewards in the town of Argyle, and people don't even know it exists. And so I love going around to these things and doing that, and thanks for them for inviting us down. You just, you know, blew right by and passed the crime victims grant. I think that crime victims is something we seriously neglect. And this grant should be 3 or 4 times that size as far as I'm concerned. We are entirely focused on the bad guys and not focused on the victims of their acts anymore. Well, that was pretty bleak. Let's talk about something a little happier. Balloon festivals this weekend. The prevailing winds at 2,000 feet are going to be to the southeast, which means the balloons are coming to Washington County to land. So it looks like good weather. Everybody should get out, and we ought to be able to sit up on the Ridge Road or anywhere and watch them land all around us. So I hope you all partake of that. And finally, if of course you don't want to go to where something is completely fictional in Whitehall, you could come to the town of Argyle, where we have another international event going on, which is Thistle Day. You can watch, you know, men and women in kilts, you know, performing heroic, and there's one right there, performing heroic acts in the Scottish Games. The Scottish Games are going to be twice the size this year, and there's a children's division, as well as a lot of nice food, as well as Daryl in a kilt and his wife. Probably we should have a kilt contest, because he and his wife would blow them away. They got far and away the best kilts I've seen. We have had a couple of kilt malfunctions in the past, if you are interested in that. But
Answers the question.
there'll be plenty of food and some good music. And when I told him, I kind of invented Thistle Day at the end of COVID, because I said we had to get out of the house. And one thing we want to do is fireworks. And I said to the guy, I don't care what it costs. I want the best fireworks around. And we have traditionally, for the past 3 years, had the best fireworks around. It's going to be a really good show this year. They shoot them off from the top of Barclays Mountain, so you can see them anywhere in town. It's a really good fireworks event. Well, that's also the 28th. If you get sick of looking at, you know, fictional creatures in Whitehall, come on down and uh-oh.
Opportunity to talk earlier, so since you have the floor, can you recant your contribution to our middle building?
Yes.
That wasn't very nice. You will pay for that one. There was a.
Talk about the bees, or we can talk about the cat and the chipmunk, one or the other.
All right. There was a colony of honeybees in the salt shed in the wall at Middle Falls, which salt shed is going to get knocked down. And Debbie said, could I take care of them? Because of course you don't want people across the road watching you call an exterminator in to kill honeybees, and people go completely begats, and it would be the horrible county doing that. So I said, no, I haven't got time. I can't do that. It's a giant pain in the neck. I don't want to do it. Call Better Bee and get a list. First one on the list was my name. So the foreman called me and said, no, call everybody else. Well, everybody else said, no, that's a horrible job. We aren't going to do it. So I went down And 14 hours later, after sawing out a huge section of wall, and 33 bee stings later, including a couple in rather sensitive areas because you had to climb up a little bank to get to it. So the bees were all over the ground and coming up my pants leg and things. We got probably 50,000 bees and 150 pounds of wax and goo and crap. And the honeybees are all rescued. If you want to see a picture of them, I've got them at home. So we took care of them. We were very humane. The nasty county didn't kill any bees, but I swelled up pretty dramatically. And Debbie will pay. And incidentally, in terms of your budget here, the core base value for that is about $400 if somebody comes and does that. So you got the course of me for free. Anybody else? Going once, going twice? Mr. Shaw, if you would.
By order of the chairman of the Washington County Board of Supervisors, I declare this meeting adjourned. By Robert C. Hinkey. Unless specially convened, in which case due and timely notice will be given. And as of this time, the date for our next regular scheduled board meeting is October 18th at 10 a.m.
We are adjourned.